Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is Greg Horn, and I'm excited to have a guest that we had on last year, Jen Collins. She writes a really encouraging, inspirational blog called LifeConfetti, and I want to encourage you to check that out. She is battling cancer, has been doing that for the past few years, but has such an unbelievable attitude about it, and really enjoyed having her as a guest for 3 programs last year. But today I want to talk about something she wrote on her LifeConfetti blog recently and sent out an email, and it's called Finding Peace Where You Can. And she based this off Colossians chapter 3, verse 15. It says, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body, you are called to peace, and be thankful." Jen, I love this article that you wrote. You talked about finding peace in a grocery store, and I used to work in a grocery store, own one for about 15 years, so I had to double take when I saw that you could find peace in a grocery store. So if you will, just share that article that you wrote so beautifully recently.
Sure. You want me to just read it?
Absolutely.
Okay. It was called Peace in Aisle 3. It had been a day like any other day, but with some extra running around. I had just picked up my daughter and her friend from a church youth group event. My son and his friend were in the family room playing a game. The giggles and the squeals would have made me smile if I hadn't been so tired and overloaded. There were so many emotions running through me I didn't know what to feel. I went upstairs to get a few minutes of quiet while I changed into comfortable clothes. Somehow the weight of the world seemed to come off with the day's attire. I put on an oversized sweatshirt and a pair of comfortable shorts. I guess my body's temperature gauge couldn't make up its mind either. I would have stolen a few minutes of lounge time on the bed, enjoying the quiet, but my husband already escaped to our bedroom and staked his claim. He was sitting on the couch playing his electric guitar with a basketball game on the television. By the time I got back downstairs, my daughter and her friend were playing the piano. It actually sounded more like a club DJ's mix of Fur Elise and the sounds that happen when you give a toddler free rein over a piano. But the piano pounding in one room, the squeals in the family room, and the loud guitar music in the bedroom, I was on sensory overload. I needed quiet, but there was just noise everywhere. So I escaped. I changed my clothes and went to the grocery store. It was late, but I needed to get away from the noise, away from the people, and away from the day. So I walked the aisles of the grocery store, all of them. Normally, I had an organized list in my head, on my phone or on my paper, in the order of appearance, and I weaved up and down those aisles quickly and efficiently, grabbing everything on my list. I usually checked out and loaded the car in almost enough time to get home and unload and be off to get the kids or to an appointment. But that night, I took my time. I slowly walked up and down each aisle, stopping to see new items. I found a new, healthier version of my favorite oatmeal. I found a few spices I might like to try. I found a few snacks that the kids might like, but I didn't buy them because, the noise. I stopped to browse the books and other items surprisingly available in a grocery store. I'm almost always reminding myself to slow down and notice my surroundings and to see the beauty in the mundane. Tonight, it happened to be in the grocery store. As I perused the huge assortment of teas and the wide range of office supplies, my mind stopped racing. That overwhelming feeling I had when the piano and the guitar and the squeals swallowed me whole was gone. As I got older, I realized that I needed quiet time. I needed time to pray and to think and to process. While some thrived in chaos and enjoyed the excitement of activity, I did not. While some enjoyed a big night out at a club or a concert, I preferred a quiet night on the couch. While some enjoyed a crowd and a big party, I preferred a night hanging out with a friend or two. And while some enjoy a full weekend, I preferred those weekends when we had nothing planned. As I got older, I learned more about myself and what my soul needed, and I was more than willing to accommodate. I spent more time in prayer with my nose in a book or sitting in the silence. When my heart was heavy and my mind was full, I dove into my Bible. But when life got crazy and the noise was too much, I had to find some peace anywhere I could get it, even if that meant at the grocery store.
Well, Jen, I think it's, one of the things that God really wants to speak to us, his kids, but we have such a hard time doing what Psalm 46:10 asks us to do, and that is be still and know that he is God. And yet, with you as a mom, as a wife, battling cancer, I thought it was just really great that you showed a place that, I didn't expect, and I think most of our listeners would not expect, that you could find peace in a grocery store. And the fact of the matter is that sometimes when we stop and slow down, you shared something as simple as finding a new oatmeal to eat. Instead of just rushing and doing your to-do list, you just kind of decided to breathe. Is that kind of how you would assess that day at the grocery store?
Yes. And I think moms find escape in the grocery store a lot of times when they can, but it was just, I just had to get out of here. It was just, there was too much going on, and it had been a long day, and I had to find somewhere to go, and the grocery store was the first thing I thought of. And it was nice because usually, like I said, I have that list. I know where everything is, and I kind of pride myself on how quick I can get in and out, and then off to wherever it is I have to go. And that night I didn't have to do that. I was not in a rush to get home. I could look around. Like, there's so many things available at the grocery store that I probably wouldn't have seen because I'm always in a rush and I know where everything is. So it just kind of opened my eyes. It was just like same as life. I mean, we rush through life. We rush to get from point A to point B and to get from this activity to the other, and we totally miss what's going on around us. And it was just it just made me think that, God wants us to have some peace, and we have to find that in our mess. We have to find that in the chaos, so we can always go to Him and find some peace. And so the grocery store was more just, that was where I found some mental peace that day. But the big story is that God is always there, and that's what He wants for us, is He wants us to have peace. He doesn't want us running around and being, like, totally overwhelmed, and we need to drown out the noise sometimes and just be.
Well, give us an update. Some of our listeners may have not heard your programs when you were on with us last year. I want to encourage you to go to our website, hopeishere.today. That's hopeishere.today, and check out our interviews with Jen Collins. You can find them under LifeConfetti. She has a great blog called LifeConfetti.blog. I'd encourage you to check out. You can also follow her on social media, on Facebook and Twitter. But give us an update. Maybe people that aren't familiar, tell about the type of cancer you're dealing with, and just give us an update on how things are going.
Okay. In 2012, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 2, and then I went through all my treatments, and everything seemed to be good. I was considered cancer-free until 2015 when I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And stage 4 metastatic breast cancer there's no cure. Your treatment goes from let's get rid of this cancer to let's provide a quality of life for as long as you have left. So it's a pretty dismal prognosis, but I knew God was going to take care of me. I was given, your prognosis is about 18 months to maybe 3 years, and I have surpassed my expiration date that the doctors had given me. I have been, I was diagnosed in September of 2015. So this September I'll be going on 4 years, and my cancer has been stable. After I had radiation on the tumor that was in my bone, my cancer has been stable ever since. So I get monitored monthly with tumor markers, blood work, and I go for regular scans. But right now everything is clinically stable. My last scan showed a little bit of increase in activity, so we just it's always a wait-and-see approach. So we just have to wait for the next scan to see what's brewing in there. But I'm praying, and I'm remaining faithful that God's going to continue to take care of me.
What have you learned about God? What has given you peace in your relationship with God during this time of your bout with cancer?
I guess every time things get hard or they seem that there's no answer or it's like hopeless or it's just been a devastating blow, he always comes through. Something always happens. He provides like the right person to say the right thing, or the side effects that the doctors warned me about never came, or I surpassed the time that they told me that I'd probably be gone. So no matter what gets thrown my way, he always finds a way to make me feel okay and to make me feel like, okay, you got this. I'm going to walk this with you. So I just take comfort in him, and that I know that no matter what comes my way, he's always going to be with me. So I've just learned over and over again how faithful he is, because he keeps showing me over and over again.
Well, and the thing is, you continue to have to live by faith. I actually saw earlier today before we recorded this conversation that one of your medicines, your insurance didn't want to cover anymore. So it's just always a time of spending time on your knees and going to God, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I was very upset this morning. I walked out of my appointment and out of the treatment center without my treatment, because my medication, I get an injection. It used to be every month. Now I'm down to every other month. And I had to walk out of there without it because my insurance denied it, and they wanted to switch. They're thinking about switching to another med that would require me to go get a port, and it has some pretty serious side effects, and I just didn't want to do that. And I, called for my prayer warriors, and just before you called me, I got a call from my nurse, and they got it approved. So praise the Lord. The prayers worked, and I get to go Wednesday to finish my treatment. So there again, it seemed less than a few hours ago, I was going through the motions of what was going to happen and what this was all going to mean, and how was I going to plan another surgery and recovery, and what is a new change in medication going to do, with my treatment. Everything's been going so well, and he answered that prayer again, just like he always does. So you have to remain faithful, and I don't know how I could not be faithful when he just keeps taking care of me over and over and over again.
We only got a couple minutes left, but also you wrote recently an article called A Movie and a Memory, and, you were talking about when you were going through chemotherapy and your body was just keeping it up all hours of the night, and you heard a set of feet coming down the steps real tenderly, and talk about how you probably handle that differently because you are dealing with cancer versus, a lot of moms I'm sure would have handled with they had a child coming down that late at night. Share that with our listeners.
Yeah, it was about probably midnight, and I heard little feet coming down the steps, and I'm like, what in the world? And I waited to see who it was, and it was my son carrying his blanket behind him. I couldn't believe he was up that late, and typically I would have just, marched him back up the steps and put him to bed, tucked him in, sat there for a few minutes till he went back to sleep. But I was so tired, and I was just up and just physically tired. And so I just had him come over, and we sat on the couch, and we watched children's programming for probably a couple hours until he got tired, and then I walked him up to bed. But that we used to call that our Friday night sneaking night. Like, he did that for, pretty much a few months while I was going through chemo, like every Friday night. Maybe we missed a few here and there, but he would get up and he would just come down and keep me company, and it was just such a special memory during that really difficult time. And I just feel like, God sent him down those steps to just to bring me some of that peace and to bring me comfort. And, I got to just snuggle with him, because a lot of the daytimes I was sleeping or I was on the couch. I was trying to, be with my kids, but, chemo takes a lot out of you. So that just gave me some of that precious time back that I had been missing. So that's just a very special memory. And just recently we watched a movie together, and it just made me think of that. My son's 12 years old now, so it's a little different. He's not coming down the steps with a pitter-patter and his blanket behind him, but it was nice to just sit there and lay on the bed and watch a movie with him, and thinking back to those days.
Well, Jen, we love your courage. We're going to be praying for you. Tell us where you're based out of again. You're not a Kentucky gal.
No, I am. It's Cannonsburg, PA, which is just right outside of Pittsburgh.
All right. And if people want to find out more about your writings and LifeConfetti, what's the best way to do that?
You can go to LifeConfetti.blog and look for LifeConfetti on Facebook as well. You can sign up for a weekly newsletter or just check it out.
All right. Jen, thanks so much for your time. Great to talk with you. We'll continue to pray for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
All right. That's Jen Collins. Hope you'll check her out at LifeConfetti.blog. That's LifeConfetti.blog. I'm Greg Horn, and this is Hope is Here.